Hello, hello. All right, guys. How are you? How are you? I'm going live early today. Oh my gosh, I have so much to talk to you about. And I really like this topic because it's one that, well, there's a lot lately that I'm really wanting to talk about. There's so many things right now. And I'm going to save this one from my notes for tomorrow. And it's something that people have asked about, and the school is telling you incorrect information. So I have taken the time with having had surgery. I think I told you guys about this. I have gotten a lot of content together, and then so many new things, with IEPs come up all the time. All right. And my office today is my couch. I'm so frustrated because I'm so ready to work out and I can't work out yet. So after I go live here with you guys, I'm going to go walk for a little bit because it's making me crazy. All right. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Raven Woods. I'm the CEO and founder of Autism Mama Rocks the IEP, and I help parents gain the knowledge and the confidence to become the CEO of their IEP meeting. So don't jump off here. We are going to talk about a really cool topic, and I even have something for you to say, and I'm going to post what you can say, kind of like a script, if you will, after this live. So you want to hang on. You want to share this, okay? Because this is not about me or maybe you. It's about the kids. And there's so many parents out there just like myself and where I was, and maybe some of you out there who really need that encouragement, that help, that support, dealing with all the frustrations that, the school system, can really put on you and the toll that it can actually take on you. It has literally, in many situations caused parents to have to go on anxiety medication, depression medication. And these are things that parents have told me, and it caused me to have severe anxiety, dealing with school systems and, just my own child's IEP. I think I told you guys when I go and to someone else's IEP, I get nervous. I still have those butterflies and that funkiness in my belly. I really do. Because, it's something I'm passionate about, and I want that child to get what's needed and appropriate. But at the same time, when it's your own child, like my own child, I feel sick. Like my stomach gets all messed up. Like I'm like, do I even have to go? Or, but I actually am super happy about doing the online thing, which is why I'm teaching all of you to only do it online from here forward. Okay. If you have questions about that, I'll do a live about it. All right. So for those of you who are new catching me live, post a 1 below. All right, I want to know where you're from. Say hello. If you guys want to share this over to the group, go for it. Do that. And also, one thing that I want you to do is post a 2 below. If you're an oldie but goodie, you guys know who you are. Hi, Del Rose. Hi, Erin. Hi, Rachel. How are you? All right, so today we're going to talk about, does your child have behaviors? Is there behaviors going on in the educational setting? Now, this year may have been kind of funky because a lot of our kids have been home much of the year. But if your child has behavior issues, and that if your child has behavior issues, all right, and has had behavior issues, that more than likely than not, that's going to increase come next year when they're in school, if it hasn't already. All right. Because kids get frustrated. They get, comfortable with something, and then you throw them and transition them into something, and it just throws them off, And so behaviors occur, anxiety occurs, stims occur, all kinds of things occur for our kids, with special needs. So it's important to kind of be one step ahead of the game. And so, this is a topic I'm liking because it's something that I've actually questioned. I'm like, what would a good comeback be? Me, I have to have a comeback with it, right? And I like to be very on point, knowledgeable, and so forth. But I learn stuff every day, okay? And when I do, I come teach you. And then, of course, there's things that I know, and that sort of thing, but I'm very fluent in IEP, but I never would say to you that I'm not always learning, because I am. So if your child has a behavior plan and they have behavior issues, awesome, but not awesome. All right. So if your child has a behavior plan, all right, more likely than not, they had a FBA. Okay. So an FBA is a functional behavior assessment plan that typically, I've found schools that don't, typically will assess your child, okay, in the educational setting, more likely than not. I've had recently where kids have gone, or the schools and BCBAs and the people that are assessing go into the school, all right? And that's fine too, but they're going to get a better overview of your child if they're in the school setting. Okay, so a lot of my evaluations that are super important and super important to still request right now. All right. So if you need help with that, let me know. I think I told you guys I have about 4 spots open. So if you're interested in an IEP makeover, talking to me, and doing the package where I'm going to your IEP meetings with you, taking over emails and so forth, message me. 4. That's it. I think, the last 2 times it was like in 24 hours it booked up. So just get with me. You can WhatsApp me. You can Facebook Messenger me. WhatsApp is the best way to do it. And we will set up a free discovery call to talk about that. But in regards to a FBA, it's so, so important, okay, that the FBAs are done right, okay? If they're not done right, then there's no freaking point of a BIP, okay? So if you have a child that has a BIP, that BIP better be on point, just like your IEP, all right? Because if you have a BIP that is just not sufficient, completely inappropriate, doesn't label all behaviors, okay? The pattern of the behavior that impedes their learning, okay? The purpose of the function of the behavior that's identified, okay, in the functional behavior assessment, the FBA, and then positive interventions and supports, that's that teaching, okay, and other strategies, okay, to address behavior and maximize consistency of implementation across all school settings, okay? So these are things that have to be part of the BIP. You also have to have, it being not just taught, but monitored and daily data taken. And then after a period of time, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, no more than a month, you want a graph formed and created based off that daily data. And then you're going to see the ups and downs of the behavior, and you're going to see what's working, what's not, what days things are off, what days they're not. And you're going to be able to really formulate in your brain as mom, dad, caregiver of, okay, what is triggering them? Because honestly, your brain is going to go in a different direction than schools. A lot of times, honestly, we just think a little bit differently. All right. It's not one way is better than the other. It's just that parents and caregivers think one way and educators think a different way because your aim is a little bit different, if that makes sense. Okay. So another thing that's really important to understand is that the IEP can serve the behavior intervention plan as long as the documentation that you receive meets all the requirements, okay, in the section per idea, okay, which is, it's a number. You guys aren't even going to know the number, so I'm not even going to say the number, okay? But developing a behavior plan is kind of like a 2-part planning process. And so I'm kind of giving you the overview before I jump into this, okay? But this is good stuff, and this script is awesome, all right? And the information was given to me by an attorney, and it's golden, okay? You're going to want this script, all right? So it's a 2-part process undertaken by a team when a student has a behavior that impedes their learning, okay? And let me tell you something. Any action that impedes learning is a behavior. All right. So I could say, oh, Skylar, my daughter, she doesn't have behaviors. Okay. Well, that's not true. Just because she doesn't throw things across the room or hit other kids or, things like that, or the more serious and aggressive behaviors, which is fine, like it's part of special needs, Are we embarrassed as parents sometimes? Sure. Is it something we want to stop? Yes. Is it something that you want to do everything in your power to make sure it doesn't happen? Yes. But any behavior, any action that impedes their behavior, it could be disrupting other children, because that's what IDEA states. Any behavior that impedes their learning or the learning of others. So it may not even be them specifically. It could be they're affecting others. All right. And the schools can't just say, they're going to a more restrictive environment. They can't be in the, least restrictive environment because they're impeding the learning of this child. They can't do that. So, does it happen? Oh, yeah, it happens. And that's when you guys are called and say, oh, we can't have him in the classroom anymore because he's disruptive and he's doing this and he's doing that. So we have to put him in a more restrictive setting because we just can't have that happen in the gen ed setting. And so us as parents, we're like, oh, okay, because we don't want other kids to suffer because of our child, right? But think about it in another way as well. No, we never want another child to suffer, but why should our child be put in a more restrictive setting? Now, don't get me wrong. There's kids that do need to be in a more restrictive setting, and I'm very supportive of that, especially for direct instruction. Okay, that's another conversation for another day. So if your child's basically just giving you an overview, if your child's in the gen ed setting and your child needs direct instruction, say in reading and math, to put them in the more restrictive environment for reading and math, that's golden. I'm big supporter of that, but never take them fully out of a gen ed least restrictive environment unless you absolutely must, and that is something that happens, and that's okay. So it's just really important to make sure that your child's BIP is on point, just like I say with your IEPs. Okay, so the result of the framework for teaching and learning of the skills, which include changes in the environment. All right, that's a big one, huge. All right, that will support the development of new skills. All right. Hi, Gina. How are you? I know you got to call. Just message me so I remember to call you. Maybe I'll call you when I'm out on my walk. Hi, Crystal. How are you? Heather Cobble here. You should hire her to help with Max's IPL. Thank you. Lydia, how are you? Hi, Pam. Jim, hello. Jim Cat Joe, is that your like whole name, or is it like you and your husband? I know a lot of people do that. That's kind of cool. Makisha, hello. Faye, hello. So welcome, guys. Make sure to share this. Post a 1 below if it's your first through third time catching me live. Post a 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie, okay? And if you guys want to share this to the group, definitely do that too. So just an overview of FBA, it examines the antecedents, all right, to the problem behavior and the consequences that occur following the behavior. Okay, your ABCs are a big deal. All right, the hypothesis is then formed about what outcome your child gains by using this problem behavior. All right, it is imperative, okay, that the team, which is you as an equal team member, all right, design a behavior plan, which really it should be, honestly, it shouldn't be a team. It should be the BCBA. I'm going to just tell you straight up, all right? Do we have input? Sure. It should say for a BIP, we have input, but the BCBA create the BIP and do the FBA. That's how it should be because they are experts in behavior. All right. You guys know I quit just under 6 months of finishing my BCBA. I know, totally stupid, but it wasn't for me. All right. It wasn't. So I learned how to do FBAs. I did many of them, and I've written BIPs, many of them. And so it's something that I love other than reading. Okay. Reading's kind of my fave. But I love talking about behavior because it's something that affects, honestly, a lot of our kids, even if their behavior isn't like a huge deal, or they may not have a FBA done or a BIP. What really irks me is when I see goals in the IEP specific to behavior and they're kind of excessive a little bit, to the point where it's like, okay, why does this child not have a BIP? Why do we have 4 or 5 goals taking up this child's IEP on behavior when we could have a BIP in place and it's not a goal, it's something taught to them and they can focus on their academic goals? You see the waste of space and time and everything else. Our school decline FBA, so having to fight to get it done. You shouldn't have to fight to get FBA. Too many head banging and gotten worse, plus multiple other self-harm. Yeah, you should not have to fight at all for an FBA. I've never, ever, ever had to fight for an FBA, and I'm a fighter. And you should not have to fight for an FBA because that's a violation. And, it's actually a pretty big violation because the school system cannot ignore behaviors. They want to because they don't want to bring in the specialists, all right? Because I will say to them, if you're going to have a psychologist, do the FBA, which nothing against psychologists. I love them, all right? And there's one in California, and California sucks, all right? Their school systems are good as far as gen ed kids. For special ed, horrible. But one of the best psychologists are there in New York, and I have connected with them, and I send children to them because they're that fabulous. Just like here in my state, I send kids to a certain place, and there's certain states that I have connections, many of them actually, where I send parents, even if they have to drive, because I know that person's going to do a spot on assessment. All right. So in regards to behavior, the FBA, just to answer your question really quick before I move on. So the violation. Okay. It's failing to address behavior strategies and intervention as part of the IEP. So that's the same thing. So if they're failing to address the behaviors as part of the IEP, then they're failing to provide your child FAPE. All right. Because behaviors affect that child in many different ways. All right. And so it's super important for the school system to address that. Of course, they don't want to. They don't want to have to deal with all of that. That's just another thing to compile onto everything else that they have to deal with. But oh well, right? So it shouldn't be something you fight for at all. So I'm really sorry that you have to do that, Jessica. You're welcome to message me, but you should never have to fight for that. So it's just super important, okay, to have, this in place. All right. So getting to the topic that's super important here, all right? So if your child has a BIP, again, one that's on point, all right, which means a good FBA has to be done. But here's something to keep in mind. An FBA is an observation by hopefully a BCBA. If it's done by a psychologist, many times I will talk with the parent and I'll say, so you have a choice here. You can say, okay, yeah, this psychologist is right on. That's exactly how my child's behaviors are. She did a great job. All right. But keep in mind that psychologists do not learn in school how to do FBAs and BIPs. Neither do teachers. Okay? Neither does anybody else in the school itself, the school. Okay? And so that's important to me, So if you weren't trained to do that, what the hell are you doing it for? So school systems, and I was just told this last week. Well, our psychologist is really good at doing BIPs, and our school is really well known to doing, really good BIP. I mean, they'll sell all kinds of stuff, but and I'll argue it. I will, and I do not always win that one. But here's the thing: is I always know the out. Okay? So sometimes you got to give in and like pick your battles, because sometimes picking your battles, you're going to win in the end anyway. All right? So here's how you get out away with that one. All right? So I'll say, okay, if you're going to have someone do it that is not the highly qualified individual, again, IDEA says the most highly qualified individual, all right? And that's who should be working with your children. If that's not the person doing the FBA, and the FBA is done and I feel that it is insufficient, that it's not really giving a big picture of my child, if I feel, honestly, if I feel off about any one thing, I'm asking for an IEE. So you can have your psychologist, this is what I say to them, you can have your psychologist do the FBA. But I'm telling you right now that if they don't do a good job and do the FBA with fidelity and write it the way it should be written, then you will be doing an IEE. And that's what I say about my child. All right. And I'll tell parents they're right. And I'll tell parents that I work with, you have the option to do this. They always go for that option. Always, So it's really important. I see you guys posting. Keep posting. I'm going to get to you. But post a 1 below if you are new, first through third time catching me live. Post a 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie. Make sure to say hi. Tell me where you're from. I want to know where you're from. I've worked in 41 states so far. I got 9 to go to do all 50. My goal was by the end of 2021, I want to do all 50 states. But I want you guys to have a solid BIP, and I'm telling you, I have not seen many. In almost 14 years, I have not seen many. All right? Okay. So, if your child does not have a good FBA, they can't have a good BIP. Just like if your child doesn't have good present levels, they're not going to have a good IEP. Okay? So, oh, thank you guys. All right. So, let's just say this. All right? I bet that in your child's IEP or BIP, we're talking about BIPs here, all right? Our topic here is what? Do you get phone calls? Oh, geez, I'm dealing with Oklahoma right now. They're a damn nightmare. I think I say that about a lot of states. Okay, so it's just this one school system, Melody. So I don't know Oklahoma. Honestly, I've talked to the state and they're amazing. So maybe it's just this one small county. All right. So if you get phone calls, okay, from your school and they're trying to get you to pick up your child because your child has had behaviors, all right, I bet you that it does not, and they have a BIP, I bet you it does not say in their BIP to call mom and dad, sister, brother, caregiver, or whomever else. I bet you it doesn't say that. So if it's not in there and it's based off their disability, what you calling me for? All right? So if your child's hurt or something like that, it's different. Okay, that's not what I'm talking about. All right. So here's what the attorney told me. She goes, if I have a client and I have that issue and they get phone calls and they're told to come pick up their child and so on and so forth, I will typically have them say this. And this is so great. I love it. All right. She said, if you are not, so this is if the school calls you because you have a child that has acted out, behaviors, etc., and they're calling you and saying, hey, come pick up your child. All right. Or they're calling you for whatever reason. But typically, if your child has some behavior issues, a lot of kids are asked to go home that day. And so she said, this is what you say. If you are not suspending my child, you are required to provide a FAPE. And trying to send my child home is an act of discrimination and a denial of FAPE. I will not keep him home. I will email to formally request an IEP meeting to discuss a behavior plan, FBA amendment, all right, to the behavior plan or staffing or placement, whatever it is, okay, that you're really wanting. Please do not call me to come and pick my child up unless he or she is being suspended, at which time I will request an immediate manifestation determination and file an action for an act of discrimination if the reality, all right, and I'm going to give you guys this script. If the reality is that he or she did not engage in suspendable behavior that is not a manifestation of his or her disability. Genius. Oh my God, that is awesome. And I'm going to post this for you guys, okay? But this is so awesome. So you don't got to go pick up your kid. You got to make them deal with your child, okay? And this is not if your child's sick or, something crazy. That's not what I'm saying, okay? Obviously, they're supposed to call you. But I'm talking about, when they're just calling you and calling you and calling you because your child's acting out in some way, shape, or form, and you're just like, deal with it. You're the school. Deal with it. You guys are so-called the experts. Come on now. Do your job. So that's if that's going on, all right? Doesn't happen with everybody, but it happens, all right? So I thought about this for a second when she sent this to me, and she's actually a pretty top-notch attorney, so, and she's in California, so I thought that was pretty cool. But there's another top-notch attorney that I love in Florida as well. But, okay, so I got to thinking about this. And so I was like, if it's a discrimination, and I know Section 504 well, so I'm like, okay, if calling home, and I never thought about that. I never thought, if they call home and they have to go home and they're not being suspended, then them being sent home is a denial of FAPE. So I got to thinking, and I was like, oh my God, like, if you're, someone posted on my group, okay, if you guys aren't part of the group, go to Autism Mama Rocks IEP group in the search bar and join the group. It's an amazing group. Well, a lady posted the other day that really made me irate, made a lot of parents irate because there was 50 million posts to it, it seemed like. And her child had to sit out on Friday or Thursday, whenever it was, of the Easter, games and so on and so forth in the classroom, all right? And he had to watch the other kids have fun because he didn't act how he should have that day. All right, that's just it in a nutshell. That's not the whole story. So that's horrible and torture. I would do that maybe to a typical child that was like middle school, high school. Okay, yeah, that'll really kick it to them and is a decent punishment because they can process what the hell they did. But to do to a elementary aged child, make them watch other children have fun, get candy, all this other stuff, and all because they did stupid shit. I mean, it was about work. Okay, it was about he didn't complete his work and some other things like that. It wasn't like he hit somebody, threw something across the room. It wasn't like that. It was work and completing work and stuff like that. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Just let the kid have fun. Sometimes having a break and having fun and then putting the, adjustments and accommodations and things in play, works. And, a problem that I'm finding is that they're not implementing things that work. And that's so important. So important. All right. And, if a child's not finishing their work, I'm not saying that it's not their disability. I'm not saying that it's not, something with them. But I know firsthand, especially with my own daughter, is if it's all about the how, right? The damn how. I hate that word now. How the child's taught, how the work is implemented, how accommodations are implemented. Shoot, if the BIP isn't implemented with fidelity, it ain't gonna work. So you could have a top-notch, right-on, awesome BIP, and then you have staff members that have no clue how to implement it. No idea. No clue, because they're not trained. And I actually am going to an IEP tomorrow, and, the attorney is impeding in the IEP where they're not allowed to do that at all. They're allowed to be there. They're allowed to support, the school system, blah, blah, blah. But they're not allowed to do what an advocate can do. I'm the one who talks in the meeting for the parent. And, the parent, I always deviate to the parent to add more and so on and so forth. And, attorneys are not allowed to talk for the school system and overpower the meeting because they are not a committee member. All right. I actually learned that from Pete Wright in, his trainings. He lives here in Virginia. And, he was adamant about that. He's like, and if they try to say they're a part of the team, the challenge is, how's that when they've never met your child? They are not knowledgeable in reference to your child. And if you fight it, most of the time the parent wins because they are not a committee member. They are not part of the team. The team is a committee member. Okay. So it's one of those things where you have to address it. But anyway, the cool thing is the BIP is sufficient now because a BCBA came in and did it. And I had conversations with her outside of the team in regards to the BIP, and she was great. And she was adamant about how she was not going to then write a appropriate observation that she did in an FBA and put forth her time and effort and then create a BIP if the school system is not going to have her come in and sign a contract with her to come in and train all people that are going to work with this child. I wanted to throw balloons and a party and everything else when she said this, because that is someone of integrity and really treasures what they do, because that is so important. So important. And, if a BIP is put in place by a BCBA, which it should be, okay, they have to train the staff or nobody's going to know how to implement that BIP. They're not. They're not taught. Before I went to the University of West Florida, I had no clue. None. All right? Zero. I had that 40-hour training of how to do ABA. Okay. That was a overview. I had an idea, a formulation in my head of how to do it. Would I go do it with a child that really needed it? No. But that's what they do at school. That's what they do these days. Oh, they had training. Oh, how much training they have? 40 hours. I had that too, and I don't want to go do that. So now I have more training, obviously. But, it's, no, you're not qualified. I mean, how hard is it to get the right people and qualified people in place? But God forbid we touch your budget. Don't get me started. God forbid we touch your budget. I mean, I thought that's what we paid taxes for, but maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, so after that script, which I'm going to post for y'all. All right. She says the phone message was immediately followed up, okay, with an email that stated the summary of the call. Okay, so they had a conversation and the script is what was said. So you can also, provide the script in writing, obviously. All right. And then it quoted what the quote was. All right. And then requested a meeting. All right. So when you read that script, all right, it's freaking genius if you say, hey, if you want to call me, that's it. And to pick up my child, because my child acted out and his behavior was whatever it was, then that's a denial of FAPE. So unless you're suspending my child and you're providing that manifestation, determination, all right, and here's the thing, they cannot suspend your child if it has to do with their disability, but they will try. And one thing they will try as well is they'll suspend your child for under the 10 days so that FAPE is not required. So if a child is suspended, they have 10 days to then provide FAPE. All right, so a lot of schools will play that game, and that's a big no-no. All right. So then she goes on to say, all right, and you'd be surprised how quickly they figure it out and fix it, all right, and offer a different placement, all right. So they fix it or they offer a different placement. Okay, so listen to this. So as long as the parent keeps that record, okay, so you talk to them on the phone or you emailed them. If you talk to them on the phone, you have to follow it up with an email, put that script in there, okay? And then the school very quickly has to then figure out and fix it. And they do quick, okay? Quick, all right? And then what happens is they then have to fix it or figure out placement, all right? Look, I'm getting all kinds of mad. Is that like mad at the teachers or mad at me? If you're going to put a frown face, shit, at least put something there. Let me know. I want to know. Okay, so either they don't have appropriate staff, or the placement is not appropriate, or there is not an appropriate behavior plan. 3 things, all right? So either the staff is not appropriate, the behavior plan is not appropriate, all right? And the BIP is not appropriate. So staff, placement, BIP. All right. So one of those is wrong. All right. One of those is not happening in the right way. Okay. So here's the other thing is, so as long as the parent comes early with the record and posts everything that they should in writing, all right, and emails the school, the child was there for attendance and he wasn't suspended, yet the mom is asked to come pick the child up, that is then a denial of FAPE. Okay, so either they don't have that appropriate staff, don't have an appropriate BIP, or the child's not in the right placement. All right. That can never be the answer, all right? So, for example, they cannot say, but the answer is not, hey, mom, come and get him. You don't get to do that because you don't have the right staff, or you don't have the right BIP, or you don't have the right placement. That's not mom and dad's problem. That's your problem. So unless the child's sick or hurt or anything else, then the school has to deal with it. And as much as you guys may want to go get your child because you're at that point, you're like, screw them, don't. All right. So unless you think that your child's in danger in some way, don't, because it is a denial of FAPE. And the problem is if you do that, all right, it's basically, let's just say that your child has escape behaviors. All right. If you go pick your child up because the school system's dumb enough to call you and say, hey, come pick your child up, and it's a manifestation of their disability, all you're doing is reinforcing that behavior. So if your child's it has escape behaviors, you're then called, they know you're going to be called, then you're going to be asked to pick them up. What did that just do? They got exactly what they wanted. So guess what's going to happen? That behavior is going to keep increasing. That behavior is going to keep happening. That's not a behavior that is going to change if you keep giving into it. So all they're doing is basically going against what anything a BIP should state in a situation like this. Okay? So, I'm just saying, okay? So, it is also the same as suspension if they're saying, okay, come just pick your child up. Even if it's for a day, it's still suspension because they're sending your child home. They can't do that based off your child having a disability. So if their behavior was based on their disability, don't call me. Deal. Learn how to deal. I can't tell you how many parents I've talked to who said they just don't know what to do. They don't know how to do it. They don't know how to deal with my child. They just want to get rid of him because they just can't handle it, or they can't do this, or they can't do that. And then what does that do? It puts a lot of stress and pressure, and of course you have anxiety and everything else because you're like worried about your child and who's taking care of them and if they're, able to do so. And, that should not be happening. Not only does the child need to feel safe when they go to school, the parent needs to feel safe and secure. All right. Okay, I see. The mean faces are not at me. Okay, I got it. All right. I'm like taking it all offensively. I'm like, well, I'm being transparent here, so I'm gonna keep going. But it's good to know those things. All right. Because I just got some messages on my watch. They were like, oh, I did a bad face. I'm sorry. It was because I was mad at what you said, that it happened to them. So, okay. So if they send your child home, All right. And it's a manifestation of their disability. Remember, that is a denial of FAPE. All right. So as much as moms and dads and you love your kitties and you want to go get them, all right, I did the same thing. But back then when I did go get her and she did dumb shit, she did not do anything horrible. She was having meltdowns. That was her thing. She could scream back then. But I should have made them deal with it because once she got home and once I picked her up, she was fine. Not a problem. Oh, she's with mom now, so she's good to go. She got what she wanted, So you guys got to watch that stuff. All right. You guys use your gut and you know what to do. All right. So they will often suspend for some behavior that is autism. All right. So what that means, and I went into detail with what she said. She was like, go for it, run with it. You know what to say. This is what she's saying to me. She's like, run with this. Take the script and run with it, And I was like, okay, I am, So that is important. All right. So behaviors that are autism. Well, like I tell a lot of people, there is not one autistic child that is the same. Not one. Okay. And they're all unique and they all have different abilities. And it's just, I used to say it was from East Coast to West Coast, but it's bigger than that. All right. So kids just have so many different ways of doing things, and they're creative. And it's important to realize what behaviors are specific to autism, but not so specific to autism, if that makes sense. It probably didn't, right? Okay, so what I mean by that is not all book written actions is what your child has to do, because that's known for autism. All right. So we don't put our kids in boxes, right? So there's other behaviors, like your child doesn't have to line things in a row to have autism. Okay. My daughter did that for a hot minute and she hasn't done it since. You don't have to cover your ears or have sensitivity and that's it. You have autism and nobody else does. You can have so many different things. All right. And it's not one of those things a lot of times that you can just look at someone and see. Many times, actually. Until maybe if you spoke with them or there's a speech language disorder or, things like that, the learning disability part. But that would be it. It's not something that just shows face. So, throwing that out there, all right, behaviors, autism, all right, I did this on purpose, that would be discrimination straight up across the board. Because if a child has autism and they're displaying behaviors that are very clearly behaviors that children with autism express and show, you are clearly discriminating against this child and their disability. And you can't do that. Okay, so say the child has a meltdown or they throw some furniture or a pencil or whatever, okay, and is loud, okay? Those are definitely traits of autism, but they're also traits of ADHD and many other disabilities, right? So if no one got hurt and the child's just out of control and maybe, had the furniture hit somebody, it would have hurt someone, or maybe it did hit someone and it was done during a meltdown, often due to the failure to implement the appropriate antecedent strategies is why that happened. You're right, Tracy. Okay? So, did you hear what I said? So, often, the non-implementation of antecedent strategies is the reason that behavior happened. So do you see what I mean about if they're not trained how to implement an IEP, all right, then we have issues, all right? And that is important, all right? And they have got to know how to implement the BIP and the IEP. All right. And if you don't know how to implement either with fidelity, and both are not on point, then FAPE's not going to be provided anyway. But, training has to be given, and you can put training into your IEP in regards to every staff member and person that works with your child learn how to implement your child's IEP, BIP with fidelity, and have no questions about it, that they clearly understand it. And that means that your IEP and BIP better be written with clarity and finality and very simple. Okay? It should not have all the jargon of educational jargon in it. All right? FBA, all these BIP, fidelity, blah, blah, blah. None of that needs to be in an IEP or a BIP. It can be very specifically written and individualized for that child. Okay? Remember, a child with who's 10 years old, typical, should be able to pick it up off the street, be able to read that IEP and know what it means. That's how clearly and simply written these documents should be. All right? So let's say they suspend your child and send them home because they had a meltdown, they threw things, whatever it is they did. Okay? And more likely than not, the child either didn't have a BIP or the school system didn't know how to implement the BIP or implement the appropriate strategies in regards to the antecedents. All right, the antecedents is what is happening before the behavior takes place. That is what an antecedent is. What's happening in my environment and around me with noise, things that you can see, everything, okay? What is happening before that behavior occurs? All right, so this went on and then bam, the behavior. So that's what they have to backtrack and rewind and figure out what happened. Because kids, even with autism, do not get to, we saved your shopping cart completely. Okay, I have no idea what that is. Okay, so it's super important to make sure that they do the rewind button and figure out what the antecedent is. All right, that's super important. All right, so then the school will typically say, well, we always have the right to issue school-wide discipline. Do you guys ever get those like books in the beginning of the school year? It's like your student handbook or something, or record book, or I don't know what the hell it's called, but it's called something like a handbook or something. All right, and you're supposed to sign the back page. I never sign it. Don't sign it. But it has to do with discipline and the rules and policies of whatever. I'm going to read that freaking book. No, I'm not. All right. And so if they say, oh, well, we can always implement, school-wide discipline, that we're allowed to do that. All right. The same as any other child is what they'll say, so that your child's treated equally. Right. And so you need to respond like this, and I will post this as well. All right. You have lots of rights. All right. This is what you're saying to the school system. But if the exercise of your rights violate the rights of this child to a free and appropriate education, his rights trump whatever you think your rights are. And of course, we don't think you have the right to suspend a child for behavior that is a manifestation of their disability. If you do, you're denying the child FAPE. Isn't that golden? I love that one too. I mean, it's great. So just watch yourselves, y'all. So you're going to have these things happen and you're going to be posting these scripts. All right. If you do this, you better come back to me and tell me what they said. Like, I want to see it. Post it on the group or something, because it's going to be funny. All right. And what I mean by that is they're going to be doggy paddling their way out of this. All right, because they're not expecting you to know this information. that you are going to be one step ahead of the game. And this is not just for suspension. If your child's disability is a manifestation of whatever it is, like this child who had to sit in elementary school, who had to sit and watch all of his friends enjoy an Easter party because he didn't finish his work, all right? And why didn't he finish his work? Well, because he has focus issues, because he has a disability. So what is that? That's a manifestation of the disability. So that child was punished. Kind of like, have you had kids punished from recess? Oh, that pisses me off. No, 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 and no, no. You don't take activity and a way to get out energy for a child who does things that are behaviors. How stupid is that? Okay, let's just back up a second. All right. Hey, your child has behaviors. What's behaviors? That's exerting energy in a negative way. But let me take recess from them. I'm trying to figure out the logical sense in that. But these are educators doing this. In my mind, it's like, y'all got to get creative because your normal, hold on. Here's the thing. This is what's happening. Post if you agree or don't agree. And if you don't agree, post that. I'm cool with that, y'all. All right? We're not always going to agree. It's totally fine. All right. I see your stuff. Is it Asarane? Am I saying that right? But hang on a second. All right. So, yeah, this is crazy. This stuff happens all the time. It really does. So I want you to post, all right, if your child has ever been removed from a field trip, recess, a holiday party, or anything else of the sort. Something extra from just their general daily, activities of school. All right, so an assembly would be one. Were they removed from the assembly because of their behavior that is a manifestation of their disability? All right, post below what it is they were removed from and what they did. All right, we'll talk about that. All right, not today, but we will talk about it because it's important. And you need to be able to address these things with the school system and not allow it to happen again. You do not take recess from a child that is having behavior issues. That is the dumbest thing anybody can do. You're basically saying, hey, I know that you're exerting energy in a negative way, the behavior, but hey, let me take recess in a way which is removing you exerting energy in a positive way. No point in having a BIP at that point, because the point of a BIP is to take the negative behavior and replace it with positive behavior. So if you're going to take, something that someone did negatively due to a behavior and a way that they can exert that behavior, energy, etc., in a different way, a positive way, you're going to take that away? Come on now, think of something better. All right? There's other punishments out there. And in all actuality, with a child with disabilities, as long as it's not a behavior that is more along the lines that could hurt others, all right, we all know that, all right, that's nothing new, all right, if it can hurt others or hurt them, then that's a different type of behavior, and those can be handled a little bit differently, and they are handled a little bit differently. Remove them from the room, take a walk, have a conversation, let them take a break, all right? They can sit in timeout. That's fine if they'll sit. You can teach them how to sit. There's different things that can happen dependent on what's going on. I mean, if they're throwing things and flipping out and flipping, you need to remove them from the room, educators, and walk with them or whatever. If you're in a gen ed room, then you obviously call somebody else, a para, etc., and someone who's trained in de-escalation, which is de-escalating that child from whatever behavior it is that they're exerting and showing based on the manifestation of their disability. And if you know how to then implement positive strategies in order to deflate, okay, de-escalate that behavior, you are going to see less and less of that behavior. And sometimes if it's a lesser behavior, one that isn't physical, then ignoring that behavior is typically the one that wins. All right? Pay no mind to it. Do not even look at the child. If they are doing something negative, that is an attention-seeking behavior, etc., then ignoring that behavior and not fueling the fire with giving it attention is typically the one that works. I know. Not always, but I know that that works. Because a lot of times they're wanting that attention, that feedback from you, that back and forth. And if you're not giving it to them based on them not acting the way they should, or even if your child is nonverbal and you're helping them and educating them in learning to talk more, if that's something they can do, or working on, then if you want milk, you're not going to come and take my hand to go get milk. You're going to say, I want milk. All right. And that's dependent on where they're at, guys. All right. So if they're working on that, typically the first mode of speech is to teach them, I want. All right. And so it's important to then use behavior strategies in areas like that as well, so that you ignore them taking your hand to go to the refrigerator to get milk. You're waiting for them to say, I want milk. Oh, yes, let's go to the fridge and get the milk. All right, let's do it. So they learn, okay, if I pull mom, she's not going to come and get me milk. But if I say I want milk, she's going to go get me milk and she's going to give me attention and she's going to be really happy. So, it depends on the child. It depends on where they are, of course, and what their ability is. But you can still teach them. They're all teachable. And using the behavior strategies in all areas is actually something that really works, versus give in and honestly counteract what should be happening, like the recess. If you're having a child that is exerting a lot of energy in a negative way, you don't take that positive way away. Even though that seems like, I can see it was something though that happened when I was a kid. I'm almost, 43 years old. Those same punishments should not be the same. All right. When recess was taken from me and I don't have a disability, I was pissed. All right. So now take a child that has disabilities. Not only are they going to be pissed, but how do they exert when they're pissed? Behaviors. So all you're going to do is increase that damn behavior. You don't want to do that. So you got to pay attention to what works. And that's where it all comes down to the individual of the child. All right. So again, comes down to that how. All right. How things are implemented, how things are done, how they are trained. Start saying how. Start asking those questions. How are you trained? How do you implement the BIP? How are you acting when my child does this? Start asking all that. Make them answer it. All right? Don't be afraid to ask that stuff. Do not be afraid. Go for it. All right? Be uncomfortable for a little bit. It may be uncomfortable for a little bit for you if that's not something you normally do. And then get over it. Get over yourself. All right? Because you need to know these answers. All right? So if you feel a little bit uncomfortable, who cares? Uncomfortableness has never killed anybody. You're going to be just fine. And you need to find out what's going on with your child. Okay? So, and I'm saying this to you because I work with parents all the time, guys. And I got to tell them the same thing. Stop being so uncomfortable. Say what needs to be said, because if you don't, no one else is. So you need to say that. I actually love the fact that people's mouths are wide open when I talk in an IEP. I'm totally down with that. And I'm down with that because maybe that's what needs to happen for change to happen. If that's what I got to do to make change happen and you're just floored that, oh my God, did she just say that? I sure did. And I can say a whole lot more. And so you guys got to just be uncomfortable with saying those things, and then, the other day, it was last week, I think it was last Thursday, I had an IEP and I was ready to go at it, but it ended up turning around. It ended up where they started working with me, and they had never worked with the parents like this. The parents had told me that. So I was ready for battle. And I have no problems with that. Normally in life, no, I don't want to do that. But, when it comes to an IEP, I will. And I found it very interesting how it was night and day, we got that child's IEP amended very quickly with no issues. And mom and dad have been trying to do it for a year. So, that's unfortunate. I hate that. I don't know why they do that. All right, let's finish this up, guys. So it is using a standoff, all right? So the BIP, basically, does not say suspension. They suspended and they claim they can. So basically what I'm saying is, like, they can't just say, oh, I'm suspending your child and I can because that's how discipline's done in this school district. Okay, well, the child's rights supersede that, especially if it's a manifestation of their disability, okay? And you need to make sure that you fight back. You have to, all right? And you have to fight back and make record of it. If it is not in writing, it never happened. If you think for some reason you're getting along and that when it comes down to the nitty gritty, they're not going to cover their ass or they're not going to do what the district tells them to do, you are out of your mind. You are not that close of friends or get along that great that they're going to put their ass on the line or they're going to go against the district. Not happening. So the quicker you get with that, the quicker you're going to change your whole outlook of the IEP. All right? And that's not saying it's always like that, but I always say you can get along, but you always need to have your guard up and be ready. Because every time I let my guard down for years, every time I let my guard down, something happened. Every time. And I was like, damn, and I really felt that way because it was that clear. It started, when something happens one time, two times, you're like, okay, whatever. But when it starts happening all the time and it's repetitive and it becomes like a pattern, you're like, what is up with it? You start questioning, like, what is up with this, So it's interesting. Things that start happening that you'll start kind of being in tune with, and you'll see that things happen in a way that is repetitive or that's plucking your nerves that maybe you didn't say anything about yet but keeps happening and showing face, and just pay attention to those things. So I'm always trying to find the real problem. I talk about this a lot, and I kind of feel like, not with you guys, but I kind of feel like I'm a revolving door with it, because if it's a crappy behavior plan, or if you got a lousy aide, or if the teacher hates the student, I hate to say that, but it happens. Just going to keep it real. What you going to do? Or if there's no accommodations, or if something else sets that child off, honestly, the key is finding out what the heck is the reason. All right? I don't care what the reason is. You need to just find out what it is. All right? So if your child is being set off, you've got to find that antecedent. That's the first thing that's got to happen. And if the school's not, you get your butts into that school and you observe the situation yourself. Because it cannot keep going like that. There is not behaviors that are so significant that happen that is all the time and there not be a reason for it. Okay, there's always a reason, even for children who have emotional disturbance. All right, there's a reason for why they do what they do. Does it always make sense? No. But does it have to? Nope. Do you have control over it? Nope. So you still got to find out why, and there is a why. Okay, so emotional disturbance is caused by something, right? Usually you're not just born with emotional disturbance. Usually it is something that has happened that has caused PTSD or something in that child's life that was tumultuous. Is that the right word? My mom has said that before. Tumultuous. I haven't used that one yet. And it's something that is built upon, all right? Whether it is repetitive or that child maybe have been abused, many different reasons, all right? Emotional disturbance is usually coupled with something. So, emotional disturbance and dyslexia, or emotional disturbance and autism, or emotional disturbance and something else, ADHD, but very rarely does it sit on its own. All right. So just take a child with emotional disturbance. I had a desk thrown at me across the room in a high school. All right. Children that were bigger than me and scared the shit out of me. But what are you going to do? But what I knew what set him off. It was another student in the class had said something and it set him off. Picked up the desk and off it went. And so he had some concerns, all right, and some disability and things that he had been through that I was very familiar with, and I should say aware of. And even though I was scared to death of the desk hitting me, how he handled his anger makes sense because of what he's been through. So do I feel like I should have gotten hurt, or do I feel like anybody else should have gotten hurt and we didn't? No, absolutely not. But can I understand where that behavior came from if set off by something that triggered him? Of course, especially because I knew what he had gone through. Now look at it as if that had happened and I had no idea what this child had gone through. I would have been really mad. All right. And I was already mad at the situation, but I was not mad at him. All right. Does that make sense? And, because I knew what was going on. So if staff members and people are not trained in how to implement a BIP, IEP, etc., then what's going to happen? There's this negative stuff going on. And who does that get turned to and put on? The child. So you got to look at that too, guys, because as parents, we don't want our children looked at in a negative way. But that can happen if someone is not knowledgeable of the child, the situation, the IEP, the BIP. Do you know how many times I've had staff members, and it's not their fault, had no idea that the child had an IEP or had no idea that the child had a BIP. And this wasn't the SPED teacher. This was gen ed. And, they had multiple teachers. So it's super crucial that you have constant contact with all teachers, have their emails and so on and so forth. I don't want to hear, I don't know who my child's math teacher is. I don't know who my child's this is. Okay. If your child's in gen ed. All right. I will post these scripts, both of them. All right. I will put them in the group in Docs. So if you're not part of the group, go onto the group. It's Autism Mom Rocks IEP group. Put it in the search bar. And I'm going to put it into the documents. I'm not going to put it here on the page where it's, it's free for all. I'm going to put it on the group and the documents. Okay. So let me look at y'all's notes and questions and all that stuff. Okay. So I said hi to all you guys. Crystal says, Heather, you should hire her for Max. Lydia, hello, hello. Thank you, Erin. She posted a how to reach me on WhatsApp. It's super easy, guys. All you got to do is go to your app store, download WhatsApp for free, and then you can log in, set up your account, again, for free, through Facebook or email. I suggest email, by the way. Because if for some reason you cannot get into Facebook for some crazy reason, because Facebook can be crazy, you at least know your email password and stuff. And then you have my link that's posted for you guys. All right. And just say hi, tell me your name, and whatever it is you need. So Gina said hi. Taylor says hello, hello. Make sure you guys post a 1 below if it's your first through third time catching me live. Post a 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie. Hi, Pam. Hi, Cheryl. Hi, Jessica. Yes, I answered your question already. Gina, I answered that. Hopefully, FBA is a functional behavior assessment. It's where a BCBA psychologist or whatever observe your child for what their behaviors are and how they're impacting your child's education. So Erin says, then try to send the child home instead to figure out what the behaviors are happening. Yes. Rocks for the Spirit says, Gina, I'll write you one. Check my profile and visit my last post. What the hell is that? I'll have to delete that. So, okay, I am in New York. Tell me who. Okay, I will. I'll tell you that right now. Hold on. Edward M. Petrosky. He's in New York. All right. Edward M as in Mary is his middle name, M. dot. And then Petrosky, Petrosky. So message me if you need the information, Gina. Okay. But yeah, Dr. Edward Petrosky, and he does neuropsychological. He's fabulous. He's awesome. Awesome. So if you're in like New York, surrounding areas, so freaking worth it. All right. Same with the lady I have in California. All right. So Dana says, my son doesn't have a BIP. The school refuses to acknowledge his autism, but addresses his behavior through the IEP, social skills, daily check-ins and outs, special ed floaters for redirection. So he doesn't have where he comes home with like notes every day or something like that, where, you know, you have some documentation as to, you know, what the behaviors are, so that you can at least have something in writing. Because if you have that, then they don't have a choice but to acknowledge it, you know? So the more you get in writing, the better. So, Amy, hopefully you got the definitions of those. Rocco, stop running. My dog's like running all over the place. So that's important. Okay. Elizabeth, catching a live 20 minutes late, but hey, I'm here. This topic hits home for me. Rocco, no. I got him this toy, and it has like squirrels in it, and he's crazy over it. This topic hits home for me. I am currently helping with this IL go through the exact same thing with her son. Goodness, goodness, goodness. Give me that. Give me it. Give me that. No more. Look at this, y'all. This is what he's playing with, all right? And it came in like a home, and there's like 8 of them. He drives me crazy with it. No, go. All right. Cheryl's from Ohio. Lydia, South 3. What does South 3 mean? I don't know what that means. Jessica says, Iowa, of course, to love you so much. Hold on, let me see what that says. Love your so much. What do you love? Just kidding. Leanne says she's from California. Oh, Lydia says South Carolina, so it was a typo. Melody's from Oklahoma. All right. Erin says, in a nutshell, okay, she told you what FBA is. Cool. Please share. I need that. Yes, please share this. Shanette says, I need all of this. I have a girl that has autism. I'm with you, girl. Lydia says he got to school at 7:40 and picked him up at 10 every day. My kindergartner. Yeah, that's rough. Aaron says make them watch the other kids. Yeah. Yes, he had to watch the other kids have their Easter party or whatever party they had. Hey Chaz, how are you? Shanette says autism mom rocks. All right, look, he got another one. You hear it? I told you there's multiple squirrels around my house. Thanks to Costco. It's like this built up thing, and it has all these holes where it's like a tree trunk, and all these holes where all of these little squirrels like came out of. He loves it. Okay. So, Lydia says that happened to me. If I wouldn't come to pick him up, then they later would suspend him. Oh God. Like the minute they call you guys to pick your child up, you need to send an email immediately. All right. And then take a picture on your phone that call came in from what number. Okay. Like just take a screenshot. All right. And, if you're in a one party state, you can get what's called Rev Call Recorder, and you can record the conversation. All right. And if you're not in a one party state, Rev Call Recorder also has where you can click a button and it tells them on the phone that they're being recorded. Like if you called, to pay a bill or something like that, it says your call is being recorded for training purposes, blah, blah, blah. Okay, it says shit like that. And then, you're safe. All right. And because they can hang up if they want to. All right. And so just pay attention to your state laws. But most states are one party, but there are several, like California, that is two party. Okay. Or they'll call it all party, but whatever. Okay. So just get Rev Call Recorder. It's freaking awesome. Okay. And I record all my IEPs with Loom. So if you need me to Loom, to teach you how to Loom, I can do that. All right. Tess says, hi Tess. Hi Maribella. Is it Maribella? Is it Maribel? How do you say your name? Marilba? Marilba? Am I saying that right? I like to get people's names right. Awesome information. I wish I had this a year ago. They will suspend my son for 4 days. Yeah, that's the game they play. And take recess. Nice. I'm not sure. I clicked on the link you posted. I don't see any link to follow. Okay, she handled it for you. Dyslexia and ADHD. Hi, Tracy. All right. Trauma can result from my own son's experience. Yeah. Cheryl says, yes, the handbook. Lynette says, they told me nothing happened. What did they tell you nothing happened to? What are you referencing? Cheryl says, oh no, more signing. Tess, yes, they call that inclusive. Yep. Can you speak a little more? This is a question. Can you speak a little more about how the school should determine meetings? Seems that even when parents try, professionals at school keep referring to infractions listed at the handbook and don't agree, and therefore have to discipline the students. Okay. I'm going to try to make sense of that. If you want to rewrite it, you can. I'm not sure how to say your name, so I'm going to try. Is it Asarane? Just tell me how to say it. Okay, I want to say it right. I don't want to say it wrong. But here, I'll show everybody the question so you guys can see it. So, in reference to this question, so manifestation determination meetings is a meeting in which the school system, well, a lot of times you can call this meeting or they can call it, and it's a meeting to review the behavior. You should have experts in there, all right, meaning, a BCBA, school psychologist, social worker, whatever, that is familiar and knowledgeable of the child and the child's disabilities. And do not ever allow someone in your IEP that does not know your child, okay? Because all parties, part of the IEP team, must know your child, okay, very well, okay? And so they can't just have a psychologist show up that's never met your child. I mean, what are they going to tell you? They're just not. They'll be able to reference a behavior, but they're not going to be able to reference that behavior in sync or in comparison or what it has to do with your child, because it just doesn't work like that. Get down. I'm not giving you this thing yet. No, sit. So he's like getting ready to call on the couch. Go get the other ones. No, go. So basically, infractions are what the school systems calls. It's the behavior that causes, the school system to say, oh, well, that was an infraction against this rule or policy. That was an infraction about this rule and policy. And so they're just referencing their policies in comparison to what the behavior was. Okay. And so that's all that is. All right. And so you have to be one step ahead of the game and be able to prove that what the behavior was, which you should have gotten that same day. All right. The day of the behavior. And if you didn't, there's a problem. All right. Especially if they're sending the child home. But the day of the behavior is when you should get something in writing. And when you do, then it is supposed to state what your child did, what the school system did, how they, went about it. Did your child go to timeout? Did your child go to the principal's office? Whatever happened, all right? It should be all outlined. This is the behavior. This is what he did. This is what we did. This is where he went, et cetera, all right? And then what happens is you then get a letter home or you're called to come pick up your child or whatever, which they're not allowed to do, but, it happens. And then, you or they can call that manifestation meeting, all right? Especially, obviously, if a child is suspended, all right? And punished in a more harsh way in regards to policies, all right? And so that is when disciplinary measures are put in full force, if allowed, or if you don't know and they do it anyway. And so, sorry, my dog's going crazy now. But I've been on for like an hour and a half, so I got to jump off here in a minute. But so hopefully that answers your question a little bit, hopefully. I'm not really sure how far you need me to go into, but in reference to the handbook, all schools have policies and procedures, all schools, all right, across the board, all right. What I'm referencing, okay, is making sure that what the behaviors are not a manifestation of your child's disability, and if it is, then suspension and you picking your child up and all that stuff cannot happen. So it's a matter of the principle of that versus, any other situation that we're not talking about. Okay. So you just need to go to these meetings fully prepared with what they gave you. And if you have what they gave you and they try to come to the table with something different than that and try to bring something else up, you put a stop to that very quickly. Say, no, 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 no. You had an opportunity. I'm an equal team member. You had an opportunity the day the behavior happened to put this in writing and tell me what happened. And you didn't. You did not tell the whole story. So you cannot just bring something new up now, a day, 2 days, 3 days, a week, 2 weeks later. No, it doesn't work like that. So we're going to stick with what's on this piece of paper, and that's what we're going to address. And you address it, all right? And you go to the table fully prepared of how to support with backup data that is a behavior manifested from your child's disability. And more likely than not, if your child has a disability, almost all of the behaviors are a manifestation of their disability. So that should be easily proven, all right? It should not be a hard one for you, all right? All right. Hi, Jess. How are you? Hi, Maribella and Melissa. Hello, hello. We have Melissa Thumbsprog here. Yes, lunch recess, not coming in from recess or not doing schoolwork. Yep. My son has been removed from anything and everything extra and fun. I'm sorry about that, Lynette. Hi, Janet. How are you? Yes, I remember those phone calls to pick up my daughter. I remember they put my daughter in silent lunch. You want to know a secret, y'all? I was really bad in school. I wasn't really bad, like behavior, like I didn't have a disability, but I was bad. All right, so I would skip school, and I was in that silent lunch. You just triggered me. Like I was in, what's it called? What did they call it? In school suspension? Is that what they call it? Yeah, I was in that a lot. Because I was like, when I was in high school, we had 4 periods and then we had lunch and we got to go off campus for lunch. So I drove so I wouldn't come back for a 5th period. I mean, why would I? I was having too much fun not going back to school. But, and I had Spanish 5th period. And at the time I hated it. And oh my gosh, I wish I stayed. Now I'm doing that Rosetta Stone to learn Spanish even more. Plus, my best friend is Spanish, so you do stupid stuff in high school. I sure did. But that just reminded me, Janet, of that silent lunch. I did many of those. Aaron says, and we're gonna sit here and watch you be the change, and the rest of us will learn from you to get things better for our kids. Thanks. Maribel says, what do you suggest when you go to their school and ask you would like to visit the class and watch your child? Well, you have the right to do that. The schools, sometimes some schools will say, oh, you're not allowed to, or they'll blame it on something. Or I've heard that it's a HIPAA. It is not a HIPAA violation. Tell them to show you in their policy where it states that you cannot observe your child. There's no such thing. Tell them to show you where in their policy, okay, that it says that you cannot go into the school and observe your child because it's a HIPAA violation. That's bullshit. No. HIPAA is medical. You are not privy to any medical documentation. No one in the classroom is talking about a child having diabetes or a child having seizures or anything like that, okay? And if you're in the classroom and a school teacher is talking about that, she's committing a HIPAA he or she is committing a HIPAA violation anyway with the other adults and children in the room. So that's not true, okay? So call bullshit and say, show me in your policy where it states ABC. Show me where it says, oh, it doesn't have to be in our policy. Yes, it does. You don't get to just pull rules out your butt. It has to be in your policy. It's either an idea, the federal law, the state law, or it's in the policy. Now, which one trumps what? Idea, state, policies, okay? So a state can create its own rules, so to speak, because each state is different by a little bit, not a ton, little things. Okay. And, I had a Oklahoma attorney say, oh, well, let me tell you about Oklahoma. I said, there's not much you can tell me about Oklahoma because all the laws are pretty much the same. All right. In regards to IDEA. So if you know IDEA, you're pretty safe. And each state has a state website where all those rules that she was quoting that I knew were full of shit on that website. Today, I got a recording of them saying, no, that's not true to what this attorney tried to claim. And so I love that I go with my gut of when someone is full of shit, because y'all need to do that too. If someone says they have training, ask what that training is. Ask for the documentation, not what the training is simply. You want to ask that too, but you want to ask, show me the papers, email them to me. You want to ask that. Okay? All right. So that is it. I see other people. Hi, Lori. Hi, Kelly. What else? Hi. Oh, hey, Shanine. How are you? Yeah, I remember. I could not pronounce your name at all. At all. Oh my God. Too funny. Hey, Jesse. How are you? Hi, Crystal. Yeah. Okay. So yes, they can pull that card. All right. But they're only going to be able to pull it for so long, Crystal. All right. Because, you got your immunizations out there and all these happy things. And life is getting back to normal. All right. And they're only going to be able to pull the COVID card for so long. Will it be at least till Christmas? More than likely, yes. But then after that, you'll be able to more than likely observe your child. Okay. Wear a mask, you'll be fine. Tell them, yeah, no, they're not going to let you in the school right now. That's not true at all. Not happening. No way. And they have a reason. All right. So, and the CDC would support that reason. So right now, their reason is valid. Come down the line, it won't be. All right. We're not going to always be in this like COVID bubble. And that's just how it goes. When you make an amendment to your child's IEP, is it immediate? If you sign it, I mean, a lot of times when you make an amendment, you're still doing the same thing as an IEP, and they screw up, and you got to go back and say, okay, change this, change that. You don't want to just sign something to sign it because you want badly to have a change. I've seen a lot of parents do that, and that's the dumbest shit. All right, don't do that. It's worth fighting for the right words to be put into the IEP versus, oh, I want my child to have speech right now. They have to have 3 times a week. They agreed. I got to sign it. No. All right. Record that damn meeting. Loom it. All right. And, you got it on recording at that point. Follow up the IEP meeting in writing and an email. Okay. Ask for the PWN immediately. Different things like that. But don't go agreeing to an amendment or anything for that matter just because you want one thing and you're hyper focused on, I want my child's speech. I want my child's speech. I want this. I want this. I want this. I want this. But you're not looking at the rest of the IEP. So you're so hyper focused on this one area, which is important. I'm not saying it's not. But I've had that where a parent's so laser focused on this, but there's all this happening too. You know what I mean? So an amendment can happen. An IEP can happen the minute you sign it. Or if 14 days goes by, it goes into place unless you said something. So always respond immediately within 5 days at worst and say, I agree, I disagree, whatever it is. Or I agree with this, I disagree with this, But you've got to put it in writing. Please put it in writing. Don't just look at the IEP, get pissed off, and say, nope, I don't agree, and not tell anybody. Don't do that. All right? Always email them. Always recap that meeting. Always have somebody by your side to take notes for you. And, you know, the one thing that I will say about advocates, I mean, if you have a good advocate, and you want to make sure that they have a flow to what they do. You want to make sure they know their stuff. You want to make sure all of these things. All right. And the main thing is you want to make sure that they get shit done. All right. And we'll fight for you and your child. And sometimes it's wise. And that's where I tell parents, it is wise. It is wise to learn to do things on your own. But it is wise to bring in an advocate in the beginning if you've exceeded your trial run. That sounds funny, but it's true. All right, your trial run with the school. All right, so you know how you can get to the point where, okay, you're just not getting anywhere with the school anymore. It's no, they're not doing anything. They're not implementing the IEP. They're not giving your child speech. They're not this, they're not that. And you're just like losing your mind because it's, you know, you've lost any type of control or sense of respect, or, you know, it's just a shit show. Well, that's when you need an advocate, because that's who comes in. If they're anything like me, not many people are, but, you know, they come in and it's a whirlwind, and the school system has to clean house really quick because you're no longer dealing with it. They're dealing with someone else. All right. So a lot of times they're shitting bricks saying, oh shit, you know, we got to like clean this up, because they've been able to get away with stuff with you. And then you bring someone else in and it's basically whooping someone into shape. Same thing. All right. Once you whoop them back into shape, then you can go back to implementing things on your own. You get into trouble again. You bring an advocate back in. You know, that's kind of how it works. Or, you know, even better, the advocate helps you and guides you along the way so that you're learning even more. And then a lot of people will also, you know, as they've learned, they handle things after the advocate comes and cleans the house. And then bring in the advocate just to go to the IEP, you know. So there's different avenues. But a lot of times, you know, parents have to step back and say, okay, you know, this isn't working anymore. I need help. And then you clean house. They clean house for you. And then you start over. And you can, you know, they'll take you. It's like starting over for you, if that makes sense. Need to add specifically one-to-one teacher instruction now that he's going back to school in person. Yep, you got to give it a little bit, though, unless he's already had a one-on-one. But you got to get him in school, give it about 60 days, let problems arise, and then deal with it. All right. All right, guys, I am excited. I have a lot of stuff to talk to you about. We're going to talk again. I'm not sure if I'm going to go live tomorrow. Probably not, because I have an IEP, so it'll probably be Wednesday. So I'll be going live on Wednesday and Thursday with more content, okay? And you'll be seeing this week lots of IEP tips, and I have some funny stuff to show you too. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. Don't forget to join Autism Mama Rocks IEP group. Just stick it in the search bar and hop over there. That is where I'm going to be posting these scripts. So they're great scripts, and an attorney wrote them, and she's amazing. So I think that you're going to really love that. And you have to promise that if you use them, come back to me and tell me what they said. Okay, so I want you guys to have a wonderful rest of your Monday. I know it's nice here. Hopefully it's nice where you are living. And I'll talk to you guys soon. If you're catching the replay, post the 1 below. If you're new, tell us where you're from. And even if you're an oldie and you posted 2 below, tell us where you're from. So I will talk to you guys later. Have a wonderful day.